The great hall stretched out like a metal ocean. 847 different alien species filled the massive space, each sitting in their special seats designed for their unique bodies. Some had tentacles, others had wings, and many had shapes that human eyes could barely understand. The air buzzed with thousands of different languages being translated by machines older than most civilizations. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat alone in the human section. Her dark suit looked plain next to the colorful robes and strange armor worn by the other delegates. She gripped her tablet with white knuckles as the numbers appeared on the screen. The vote was almost finished, and it was not going well for Earth. The motion to exile humanity from galactic society, announced the speaker, a tall being with crystal skin that reflected the chamber's lights, requires a 2/3 majority to pass. Sarah had been Earth's voice in this chamber for 12 years. She had watched her species make friends and enemies among the stars. She had seen humans save alien colonies from disasters and help solve problems that had puzzled civilizations for centuries. But she had also seen the fear in alien eyes when humans accomplished in decades what took other species centuries to achieve. The Zephyrians voted first. Their representative, a being that looked like flowing water in a glass container, cast their vote with a sound like wind chimes. "We vote yes for exile." Sarah's heart sank. The Zephyrians had been allies once. They had praised human engineering when Earth's scientists helped them build new cities on their water world. But that was before humans started asking uncomfortable questions about how galactic society really worked. One by one, the votes came in. The Thoraxians, who looked like giant ants made of gold, voted yes. The Ethereal Collective, beings of pure energy contained in floating spheres, voted yes. Even species that humans had saved from extinction voted to exile them. "The problem with humans," said Council Leader Vex 9, his mechanical voice echoing through the chamber, "is that they do not understand limits. They question everything. They change everything they touch. They make other species uncomfortable with their rapid growth." Sarah stood up to speak, her voice carrying across the vast hall. "Honored Council, humans have brought new solutions to old problems. We have helped increase food production by 40% across 12 systems. We have stopped 3 wars through negotiation. We have shared our medical knowledge freely." "And that is exactly the problem," replied High Curator Zals, her snake-like body coiling around her speaking platform. "You share too much, too fast. You disrupt the natural order that has kept peace in our galaxy for 10,000 years. Your species does not respect the proper way of doing things." Sarah felt anger rising in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. "The proper way? Is it proper to let people suffer when solutions exist? Is it proper to follow rules that prevent progress?" "Rules exist for good reasons," said the speaker. "They prevent chaos. They maintain stability. Humans seem incapable of understanding this basic truth." The voting continued. Each yes felt like a hammer blow. Sarah thought about Earth, about the billions of people who had no idea their fate was being decided by aliens in a metal room far from home. She thought about her daughter Elena, now serving in Earth's small but growing space fleet. She thought about all the humans working on alien worlds, helping to build a better galaxy. The Crystalline Empire voted yes. The Hive Worlds voted yes. Even the Peaceful Assembly, whose entire culture was built around avoiding conflict, voted to exile humanity. "We vote yes," said their representative, a creature that looked like a walking flower, "because humans make others want to fight. They inspire competition where there should be cooperation. They make questions where there should be acceptance." Only 13 species voted no. Most of them were small, weak civilizations that humans had helped in some way. Their votes barely registered in the enormous chamber. The final count appeared on every screen: 834 votes for exile, 13 votes against. The number Sarah had been dreading. "The motion passes," announced the speaker. Humanity is hereby exiled from galactic society. All trade agreements are void. All communication channels will be closed. All human citizens on alien worlds have 30 days to return to their solar system. Sarah's hands shook as she accessed her emergency communication device. She had to warn Earth, had to tell them what was coming. But as she tried to connect, nothing happened. The aliens had already cut Earth's communication links. Furthermore, continued the speaker, to ensure this exile is complete, we will activate the solar barrier system. Sarah's blood turned cold. She had heard whispers about the solar barrier system, ancient technology left behind by the predecessors, the mysterious race that had ruled the galaxy millions of years ago. Legend said it could cut off entire star systems from the rest of space. Through the chamber's massive windows, Sarah could see ships moving into position around the space station. Huge vessels carrying technology that looked more like art than machinery. The predecessor artifacts glowed with strange energy as alien crews prepared them for activation. The barrier will contain humanity within their solar system, explained Council Leader Vex 9. They will have their sun, their planets, and their moon. They can live as they choose within those limits. But they will never again disrupt galactic peace. Sarah watched helplessly as beams of pure energy shot out from the alien ships. The beams formed a pattern around the chamber, creating a three-dimensional map of local space. At the center, a small yellow dot represented Earth's sun. The energy beams began to weave together, forming a cage of light around the Sol system. "It is done," said the speaker. "Humanity is now contained. The galaxy can return to peace." As the energy barrier solidified, Sarah felt something she had never experienced before in the galactic chamber. Complete silence. The constant background chatter of Earth's communication networks, always present through her implant, simply stopped. Earth was now alone. The alien delegates began to file out of the chamber, their duty complete. Many avoided looking at Sarah as they passed. Some seemed relieved, others appeared sad, but none spoke to her. Sarah remained in her seat, staring at the energy map where Earth's prison glowed like a small, contained star. She wondered if humanity would survive this isolation. She wondered if they would learn to accept their limits as the aliens wanted. But knowing humans as she did, Sarah suspected the galaxy had just made a very dangerous mistake. Humans had never been good at accepting cages. 25 years had passed since the Great Barrier trapped Earth in its own solar system. Dr. James Morrison walked slowly through the underground research facility on Luna, his back bent with age but his mind still sharp as a knife. The moon base had grown into a massive complex during the exile, stretching deep into the lunar rock like the roots of a metal tree. "Show me the readings again," James said to his assistant, Dr. Kim Park. She was young enough to have been born after the exile, part of a generation that had never seen an alien or walked on worlds beyond their solar system. Kim pulled up the data on her screen. "The barrier energy is still strong, but look at these patterns. Every 3 days, it sends out a pulse. The pulse carries information." James studied the numbers with tired eyes. After decades of studying the alien barrier, he knew its behavior better than anyone alive. But these new patterns worried him more than anything he had seen before. "It's not just keeping us in," he said quietly. "It's watching us. Learning from us." The barrier was supposed to be a simple prison. The aliens had told Ambassador Chen that it would contain humanity and nothing more. But James and his team had discovered something much worse. The barrier was copying everything. Every human transmission, every new invention, every breakthrough in science and technology was being recorded and sent somewhere beyond the stars. Kim nodded toward the main laboratory. "Director Zhang wants to see the full report in an hour. She says the Defense Council is asking questions." James smiled sadly. The Defense Council was what humans now called their government. When the barrier had first activated, the old nations of Earth had quickly realized that their borders meant nothing when the entire species was trapped together. Within 5 years, they had formed a single world government focused on one goal: finding a way out. The laboratory buzzed with activity. Hundreds of scientists worked at stations filled with equipment that would have amazed the aliens who had exiled them. Cut off from galactic trade, humans had been forced to build everything themselves. They had taken apart every piece of alien technology left on Earth and learned to make it better. Dr. Lisa Zhang looked up as James entered her office. She was the youngest director in the facility's history, chosen not for her age but for her brilliant mind. Her desk was covered with reports from research stations across the solar system. "Tell me about the data theft," she said without greeting. James sat down heavily in the chair across from her. "It's worse than we thought. The barrier isn't just sending our technical data. It's copying our thought patterns, our languages, our entire way of approaching problems." Lisa's face went pale. "Someone is studying us. More than studying. They're preparing. The question is, preparing for what?" On the wall screen, Lisa brought up a map of human space. Red dots showed the locations of research stations on Mars, the moons of Jupiter, and the asteroid belt. Yellow lines connected them, showing the flow of information and resources. In just 25 years, humans had built a civilization that spanned their entire solar system. "The Prometheus project is almost ready," Lisa said. "Admiral Vasquez says her teams have found a weakness in the barrier." James looked surprised. "Elena found something?" Chen's daughter always was clever, just like her mother. Elena Vasquez had been 15 when her mother was exiled from the Galactic Council. She had spent the next 25 years preparing for revenge. Unlike her diplomat mother, Elena believed in action over words. She had joined Earth's military and risen quickly through the ranks, becoming the youngest admiral in human history. Lisa activated a secure connection to the military research station hidden in the asteroid belt. Elena's face appeared on the screen, her dark hair now streaked with gray but her eyes still burning with determination. "Report, Admiral," Lisa said. Elena's voice came through clearly despite the distance. "We've built 3 ships using the new quantum tunneling technology. The barrier works by creating a solid wall in normal space, but we think we can slip through the spaces between dimensions." James leaned forward with interest. "The aliens never thought of dimensional travel." "Their technology is thousands of years old and very stable," Elena replied. "They stopped innovating long ago. But humans never stopped pushing boundaries. Our ships can exist in multiple dimensions at once." Lisa studied the technical readings Elena was sending. "What about the data theft? Should we be worried about the barrier copying these plans?" Elena smiled grimly. "Let it copy. By the time anyone figures out how our technology works, we'll have moved on to something even better. That's what humans do best." James felt a mixture of pride and worry. Human technology had advanced faster during the exile than in all their previous history. Desperate need had driven innovation to incredible levels. But he wondered if they were moving too fast, changing too much. "There's something else," Elena continued. "Our long-range sensors have detected unusual activity beyond the barrier. Ships moving in patterns that suggest conflict. The galaxy may not be as peaceful as the aliens claimed." Lisa and James exchanged glances. If there was trouble in the galaxy, it would explain why someone was so interested in human military technology. The barrier might not be keeping humans in as much as it was keeping something else out. "How long until the first test?" Lisa asked. 2 weeks. We'll try to send a small probe through the barrier using quantum tunneling. If it works, we'll know we can get out." After Elena's transmission ended, James sat quietly in Lisa's office. Through the window, he could see Earth hanging in the black sky like a blue jewel. It looked peaceful, but he knew that billions of people down there were working toward the same goal, freedom. "Do you think we're ready?" Lisa asked. James thought about all the changes he had seen in his lifetime. Humans who had once fought each other over small pieces of land were now united in building ships that could bend space itself. Children born in exile were growing up with technologies that would seem like magic to their grandparents. "I think the aliens made a mistake," he said finally. "They wanted to teach us limits. Instead, they taught us that limits are just problems waiting to be solved." On his computer screen, the barrier readings continued their steady pulse. Every 3 days, like clockwork, sending humanity's secrets to unknown watchers among the stars. But James no longer worried about what the aliens might learn from studying humans. He worried about what they would do when humans stopped being their prisoners and became their teachers instead. The council chamber fell silent. Marcus could imagine the uncomfortable shifting as alien representatives realized their mistake. The human exile was necessary, Vex 9 said defensively. They were disruptive to galactic order. "And now that order is being eaten alive," the angry voice replied. "Perhaps it is time to admit that order without adaptation leads to extinction." Marcus signaled for his ship to pull back to a safe distance. He had heard enough. As the Pioneer moved away from the Council station, his crew worked to gather more intelligence about the Devourer threat. What they discovered was worse than the Council had admitted. The Devourers were not just consuming systems randomly. They were following specific patterns, targeting the most technologically advanced worlds first. And they were learning from each victory, adapting their tactics with frightening speed. "Sir," Navigator Chen said, "I'm detecting something else. Multiple ships are approaching the soul barrier from different directions." Marcus felt his blood run cold. "Human ships?" "No, sir. Alien designs, but not any configuration I recognize. They're carrying some kind of scanning equipment." Through his telescope, Marcus could see the truth. Unknown alien ships were studying the barrier around Earth, taking detailed measurements and recordings. Someone was preparing to harvest whatever the barrier had been collecting for 25 years. "Get us back through the barrier," Marcus ordered. "Admiral Vasquez needs to know what we've found." As the Pioneer slipped back through the dimensional gaps, Marcus thought about everything they had learned. The galaxy was under attack by an enemy that adapted to any defense. The old council was paralyzed by their own rigid thinking. And someone was planning to steal 25 years' worth of human innovation. But Marcus also thought about what he had seen in the emergency broadcasts. Fear. Panic. Desperation. The same aliens who had voted to exile humanity were now facing extinction, and their ancient ways of doing things were failing them. The barrier came into view, still glowing with alien energy around Earth's solar system. But now Marcus saw it differently. It was not just a prison. It was a treasure vault that someone was planning to rob. And inside that vault, humanity had been building weapons and strategies that could save or destroy entire civilizations. "Home in sight," Navigator Chen announced as Earth appeared on their screens. "Not just home," Marcus replied, thinking about the alien ships gathering around the barrier. "This is ground zero for the next galactic war." The Pioneer slipped back through the barrier carrying news that would change everything. The galaxy needed humanity's help, whether the aliens wanted to admit it or not. And humanity was about to discover that their 25 years of exile had made them the most dangerous species in known space. The question was no longer whether humans could break free from their prison. The question was what they would do to the galaxy once they were loose. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of her flagship, the HSV Liberation, watching as 3 massive human fleets prepared to emerge into normal space. Each fleet contained ships that looked nothing like the primitive vessels the aliens remembered from 25 years ago. These new ships seemed almost alive, their hulls shifting and adapting as they moved through the dark between dimensions. "All fleets report ready," announced Captain Torres from the communications station. Fleet Alpha is targeting the Centauri hub. Fleet Beta is moving toward the Vega shipping lanes. Fleet Gamma will hit the Council station directly. Elena nodded, her face calm despite the magnitude of what they were about to do. This was the moment she had trained for since watching her mother's exile decades ago. Remember, we are not here to conquer. We are here to wake them up. The first fleet emerged near Centauri hub like ghosts becoming solid. The Alien Traffic Control Center immediately began sending frantic warnings about unauthorized ships in their space. Elena smiled as she listened to the panic in their voices. Unknown vessels, you are in violation of galactic shipping regulations. Identify yourselves immediately or face defensive action. Elena opened a channel that reached every communication device in the system. Her voice carried across hundreds of worlds as she spoke. This is Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Human Liberation Fleet. We are the species you voted to exile 25 years ago. We have returned. The silence that followed was deafening. Then chaos erupted across the communication channels as alien voices tried to process what they were hearing. Humans were supposed to be trapped behind their barrier, slowly dying in isolation. They were not supposed to have fleets that could appear anywhere in the galaxy. Impossible, came a shaking voice from the Centauri Defense Force. The barrier is still active. Our sensors show no breach. Your sensors show what we allow them to show, Elena replied. While you have been following the same old rules, we have learned to break them. At Vega, Fleet Beta emerged in the middle of the busiest trade route in the galaxy. Hundreds of cargo ships scattered as human vessels materialized around them. But the humans did not attack the civilians. Instead, they began broadcasting something much more dangerous than weapons: truth. Citizens of the galaxy, announced Captain Park from the fleet's communication ship, your leaders have lied to you. They exiled humanity not for disruption, but for convenience. They knew the Devourers were coming and wanted to study our defensive innovations without sharing the benefits. Proof began flooding the galactic communication networks. Recorded council sessions, classified documents, evidence of the conspiracy to harvest human creativity while leaving Earth to face extinction alone. The revelations spread faster than the fleets themselves. Back at the council station, Fleet Gamma emerged from quantum fold space like a nightmare made real. The massive human ships moved in patterns that hurt alien minds to watch, their hulls rippling with technologies that should not exist. Council Leader Vex 9, Elena's voice echoed through the station's corridors, you wanted to see what humans could do when isolated. Look around you. This is what we learned. The station's defense systems activated, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the human ships. The vessels existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making them impossible to target with conventional weapons. How? Whispered High Curator Zals, her snake-like body trembling as she watched the displays. How did they advance so far so quickly? Elena's ship materialized directly in front of the council chamber's massive windows. Through the transparent metal, the alien representatives could see her standing on her bridge, no longer the desperate ambassador her mother had been. You gave us 25 years with nothing to do but think and build, Elena said, her words reaching every corner of the station. You gave us common enemies and shared goals. You united our entire species around a single purpose, proving you wrong. Council Leader Vex 9 tried to maintain his authority. You are in violation of your exile. Return to your barrier or face the consequences. Elena laughed, a sound that chilled every alien in the chamber. Consequences? Look at your own communications. The Devourers have consumed 30 systems while you debated proper procedures. Your rigid thinking has paralyzed your defenses. As if summoned by her words, emergency alerts began flooding the Council's communication systems. Devourer fleets were attacking 3 more systems simultaneously, and the traditional galactic defense forces were retreating in confusion. We offer you a choice, Elena continued. Continue following your ancient rules while your civilization dies, or accept that survival requires change. On the main display, Elena showed footage from human reconnaissance missions. Devourer ships that adapted to every weapon used against them, consuming entire fleets and growing stronger. But the footage also showed something else, human ships fighting the Devourers and winning. How are you defeating them? Asked a voice Elena recognized as coming from the peaceful assembly. The same way we defeated your barrier, Elena replied. We do not follow their rules. When they adapt to our weapons, we invent new ones. When they learn our tactics, we create strategies they cannot understand. The evidence was undeniable. While the galaxy's conventional forces were being destroyed, human ships were successfully engaging Devourer fleets using weapons and tactics that changed faster than the enemy could adapt. But there is a problem, Elena continued, her voice becoming deadly serious. Someone has been stealing our innovations through the barrier you placed around Earth. Unknown ships are gathering near our solar system, preparing to harvest 25 years of human technological development. The council chamber erupted in confused voices. If someone was planning to steal human technology, it meant the Exile had never been about punishment at all. It had been about creating a controlled environment for studying human innovation. Who? Demanded several voices at once. Elena's face appeared on every screen in the chamber. We intend to find out. But first, we need to save what remains of galactic civilization from the Devourers. The question is whether you will help us or continue hiding behind rules that no longer work. High Curator Zal's uncoiled herself slowly. What do you want from us? Nothing, Elena replied, surprising every alien in the chamber. We do not want your approval or your permission. We are going to save this galaxy because it is the right thing to do. But afterward, things will change. She gestured toward the chaos visible through the chamber windows, where alien ships fled in terror from threats they could not understand. Your comfortable order is over. The universe does not care about your ancient protocols. Survival belongs to those who can adapt. Elena's fleets began moving away from the three systems they had appeared in, but their message remained behind. On every world, in every system, beings were seeing proof that the species they had exiled was now their only hope for survival. The old galaxy was ending. The new one would be built by those brave enough to break the rules when breaking them meant the difference between life and death. And humanity had just announced that they were very good at breaking rules. The final battle began where humanity's exile had started 25 years ago. Admiral Elena Vasquez watched from her flagship as enemy ships emerged from hyperspace around the council station. But these were not the familiar alien vessels she expected. These ships looked wrong, like someone had taken pieces from 100 different civilizations and welded them together without understanding how they worked. Unknown fleet composition, reported Captain Torres. I'm seeing Zephyrian hulls with crystalline weapons and ethereal power systems. Someone has been mixing technologies that should not work together. Elena studied the approaching vessels through her tactical display. Each ship was different, as if built by someone who had access to the designs of every galactic civilization but did not understand the principles behind them. They have been copying everyone, not just us. The lead enemy ship opened communications. The face that appeared on Elena's screen made her stomach turn. It looked almost human, but wrong in subtle ways. The features were too perfect, the expressions too calculated, like someone wearing a mask of human skin. I am Prime Harvester Zex, the creature said in a voice that sounded like multiple people speaking at once. You will surrender your vessels and submit to integration. Your biological and technological distinctiveness will be added to our collective. Elena smiled coldly. Let me guess. You are the ones who have been stealing our innovations through the barrier. You created the Exile to turn Earth into your private research laboratory. The Galactic Council served their purpose, Zex replied. They believed they were punishing you. In reality, they were helping us study your species in isolation. Your rapid adaptation and innovation made you the perfect subjects for our experiments. Around the station, more enemy ships appeared. Elena counted over 200 vessels, each one carrying weapons and technologies stolen from civilizations across the galaxy. But she also noticed something else. The ships moved in predictable patterns, following strategies that had worked against other species but would fail against humans. "You made a mistake," Elena said into the communication channel. "You studied our technology, but you never understood our thinking." "Explain," Zex demanded, his false human face showing confusion. "You assumed we would fight like everyone else," Elena replied. "You prepared counters for every weapon we have built. But you forgot the most important human trait: we cheat." Elena gave a signal that had been planned for months. Across the galaxy, human ships that had been hiding in the spaces between dimensions suddenly appeared. Not just around the Council Station, but at every major system, every important world, every location where the harvesters had hidden their technology. "Impossible," Zex said, his perfect features distorting with anger. "Our sensors detected no human presence in those systems." "Your sensors detected what we wanted them to detect," Elena replied. "While you were studying our old technology, we were building new methods of hiding our ships. You cannot steal what you cannot see." The harvester fleet opened fire with weapons copied from dozens of civilizations. Beams of pure energy, gravity bombs, and reality-cutting blades filled the space around the Council Station. But the human ships simply were not there when the attacks arrived. "Phase shift complete," announced Captain Torres. "All human vessels are now existing primarily in Dimension 7. Enemy weapons are passing through normal space while we fight from parallel reality." Elena watched as her fleet returned fire. But instead of using the weapons the harvesters expected, the human ships deployed something completely new. Streams of information, pure data given physical form, reached out toward the enemy vessels. "What are those?" demanded Zex as his ships began to slow and stutter in space. "Teaching tools," Elena replied. "You wanted to learn from humanity. Let us show you what we really discovered during our exile." The data streams reached the harvester ships and began rewriting their stolen technologies. Systems that had been copied from other civilizations suddenly started working the way they were supposed to work instead of the flawed versions the harvesters had created. "Stop this," Zex commanded as his ships began turning against each other. "You are corrupting our perfected designs." "We are fixing them," Elena corrected. "You stole the blueprints but never understood the purposes. A Zephyrian power core works differently when connected to an ethereal weapon system. We are teaching your ships to be what they were meant to be instead of what you forced them to become." Across the galaxy, the same thing was happening. Harvester fleets that had terrorized civilizations for decades were suddenly finding their own ships rebelling against them. Technologies that had been stolen and misused were remembering their original purposes and rejecting their captors. "This is impossible," Zex repeated, but his voice was losing its artificial perfection. "We are the ultimate adapters. We take the best from every species." "No," Elena said firmly. "You are thieves who never learn to create anything yourselves. And thieves always fail when they try to steal something they do not understand." The Council Station, which had been caught in the middle of the battle, received an unexpected message. High Curator Zal's appeared on Elena's communication screen, her snake-like form coiled in what Elena recognized as a gesture of respect. "Admiral Vasquez," Zal said, "the Council formally requests human assistance in rebuilding galactic civilization." Elena looked at the alien leader who had once voted to exile her species. "The old Council is finished. Your rules failed because they were designed to prevent change instead of encouraging growth.